New York has been the coronavirus epicenter in the United States, and it has recorded its lowest daily death toll in almost over a month. Now, the state has recorded 367 new deaths in a day, marking the lowest daily death toll since the 31st of March.
Where we were on March 31st, before we started this dramatic increase in the number of cases. We're still watching. Big questions: how fast does that number continue to come down? First, does that number continue to come down?
Meanwhile, Governor Andrew Cuomo has said that New York will be reopening tentatively from the 15th of May. He said that businesses in specific regions will be allowed to resume operations in different phases.
The pause is statewide until May 15th, right? Then you have the CDC guidance that says total hospitalization is declining for 14 days, okay? So we get to May 15th. What regions have seen a decline for 14 days? Well, we're assuming we will have seen a decline in the state for 14 days. But what regions of the state have seen a decline for 14 days? That's where you will start the conversation to get to phase one in that region.
And New York and several other states are gradually moving towards an economic reopening, as experts still have ever warned that the U.S. employment rate could actually rise to as high as 16%.
You know, I think that the next couple of months are going to look terrible. You're going to see numbers that are as bad as anything that we've ever seen. I think the unemployment rate is going to jump to a level probably around 16% or even higher in the next jobs report.
All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what is unfolding in the United States in the aftermath of the COVID-19 outbreak, we're joined in by Jagruti Devesh. She's joining us live from Washington. Now, Jagruti, let me begin by asking you this. We just heard New York's State Governor Andrew Cuomo there stating that he's looking potentially the 15th of May as the date when the lockdown restrictions could be eased. Bring us up to speed in terms of what is happening in the United States in terms of how different states within America are looking at easing down these lockdown measures.
Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, talked about post-May the 15th because that is the day currently where the stay-at-home order there is scheduled to end. He was talking there about a really careful approach, saying that they have to look at the regions that have been the least affected and which are the regions that have shown that decline for 14 days as outlined by the three-phase approach that the federal government had issued. Now, clearly there are some states upstate where there are fewer cases, fewer deaths, which could possibly reopen what the government called low-risk businesses. New York City, however, which has seen a large number of deaths and large number of infections, that is clearly a different matter. So this is the kind of approach that the governor is taking. You've got others who are taking similar approaches. A Republican governor in the state of Maryland, just neighboring here in Washington, D.C., he has also said that he is going to be guided by science and he is going to take a gradual, careful look. He's not going to raise the stay-at-home order lift that order in his state until he has seen a decline in deaths for 14 days, again following the guidelines issued by the CDC. And I say that he's a Republican because there's been suggestions by the president's supporters, hinted at by the president as well, that there have been Democrats. It's been split between Democrats and Republicans as to who's been critical of the president and who is not, who is wanting to open up and who isn't. There are other places, the state of Kentucky, that is considering starting non-essential medical appointments very, very shortly. But compared to that, you've got states like Georgia that opened businesses like spas, salons, tattoo parlors on Friday that had evoked a lot of criticism, not least by health experts. And even Dr. Fauci, the top epidemiologist in the United States, was asked at one of the latest task force briefing about what he would say to the governor of Georgia about opening those businesses. And he said he would advise him not to do it so soon.
Absolutely, indeed. When to ease these lockdown measures? That, of course, is a question that will be debated in the days to come. But the other big controversy that Donald Trump, in fact, stepped in when he said that, was it possible that by injecting disinfectants could the COVID-19 infection be combated? Since then, he said that he would not like to take part in any more of these press briefings. How is this controversy playing out in the United States?
Well, it's interesting. So the president said that his comments there were sarcastic, and the White House press secretary had said that his comments were taken out of context. Despite this, though, governors have been reporting that some of the states' emergency helplines have been inundated with calls by people inquiring about the use of disinfectant. Obviously, the CDC health experts are saying that these are not to be ingested. Disinfectants are not to be ingested. And one manufacturer of disinfectants issued a statement saying that under no circumstances should their disinfectants be taken internally in any way. Now, despite the president having tweeted on Saturday that these press briefings were a waste of time and effort, and despite Saturday's briefing not having gone ahead, it seems that tomorrow there is a press briefing, a task force briefing scheduled for the evening as per usual. Yes.
So does it mean that the president will still come forth, take part in these press briefings and take questions from the media that he's described as lamestream and also extremely hostile?
Well, we'll have to see tomorrow what happens. Remember, on Friday, he came out after those controversial comments that the President had made. He came out on Friday, but didn't take any questions. It was an incredibly short press briefing. And then, of course, Saturday's was cancelled. So there is going to be a task force briefing tomorrow. We'll see if the President is there at it, and we will have to see whether he takes questions.
Absolutely. And just before I let you go, how is all of this playing out on the American economy? What is the roadmap ahead as different states begin to slowly ease the lockdown measures? How badly is the American economy going to be impacted?
Well, we've had more unemployment figures out in the last week, and so we're seeing around 26 million Americans who have been found unemployed and have had to file for joblessness. So that is a huge consideration that the federal government has to look at, but also that states have to consider as well. And the unemployment is one of the things that has been driving the protests in several states across the country against those stay-at-home orders. Another issue that's driven those protests is, of course, people talking about the restrictions to their personal freedom. A lot of these protesters are wearing the memorabilia that's supportive of the president, like those famous red caps. So there's a variety of reasons why people are coming out and protesting, and the president has been supportive of these protesters who are breaking the stay-at-home orders, often not wearing masks, not separating themselves 6 feet apart. But at the same time, he has been saying that he wants states to reopen gradually and safely. So it's a balancing act that states are having to play with these mixed messages coming from the White House, but also this balance of the economy and public health.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Jagruti Dave, for joining us from Washington, D.C. and getting us all those insights in terms of what is playing out in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States.